Well, some of the challenges of leadership, especially in Singapore, I would think, would be very much, I call it my 5 Cs, okay? And it isn't the credit, a car, but rather I would say the first C would be customers. The most important is obviously making money. That's why a business exists. But getting customers, retaining them, getting sufficient penetration so you get profitability from your customer, and getting new customers. That's really very, very primary in today's business and what leaders are always thinking about. That keeps them awake at night. So the first C is customers. The second C is commitment. I think with the volatility of the market today, the labor market, we're talking about people moving from job to job, and commitment of your people, their time and effort, and willingness to learn, and their attitudes. I think that's so important for a business today. The third C is clarity. Clarity and alignment of their goals and strategy. I think that's so very essential. It's okay to say, let's build a strategy and let's all sit together in a room and build that. But at the end of the day, how do you execute across the organization successfully? That I think is going to be primary to any leaders, uppermost in their mind. Fourth C is competencies. Having the right skills and the right, basically being able to do the job, having the right capability to do it, and for companies to be able to enable their people to be able to do that job and do it well in the shortest possible time, all right? And that is primary to being able to deliver on a promise to a customer and being able to get the profitability and the margins that a company wants. The last C is competition. Singapore being such an open economy, obviously, when we start a business, when we do business, it's global competitors that we are battling with. And at the end of the day, it's really about being able to be sustainable in this very open economy, right? So the 5 Cs. What are the 5 traits of a good leader? There is so much information that we're inundated with every day as a leader. One of the most important skill, I think, of a leader has to be the ability to leverage information to your advantage or to your business advantage. And that, I think, is an essential skill, to be able to, filter out all that noise in the line, and be able to use it to give yourself a competitive advantage. That's a tremendous trait. That's a tremendous skill. The other one is the ability to communicate your vision. Because there's so much written information, it actually creates confusion. And there is so much going around that people form their own impressions and perceptions of things. So it's very important to be able to communicate clearly and communicate what you want to do, be able to influence others. That's also very, very important. And so communication and being able to influence others is tremendously important. The other trait I would think is relationship building. The ability to build relationships with the people who are your employees, your customers, internal, your peers, your boss. That's very, very essential, all right? Because today, and this is something that I've heard recently, that people don't leave companies, they leave their boss. And that's very, very, very sad, I think, because this whole idea of engagement is such an essential thing to retain the talent that companies have, want to do, yeah. All right. The last trait I would say is the ability to be strategic. A lot of us in Singapore grew up working very operationally and tactically. So a lot of us are fairly reactive. You give us a job and we'll get it done. But when it comes down to actually being able to look at the environment and say, where do I want to go and take this organization and be able to build a strategy and a vision for the future, I don't think we spend that much time reflecting on what we want to do and how we want to do it to be successful. So those, I think, would be essential traits for a leader today? Well, can leadership be learned? That's a very good question. Obviously, to be a good leader, you have to be able, you have to have that X factor. There is also that X factor, which is to some extent nature. But can it be nurtured? I believe yes, it can be nurtured. Coming out of an organization which is a multinational like IBM, and that's where I've come from, and where I've honed in my ability to be the leader that I want to be. I believe that at the end of the day, and after that coming out and starting my own business as an entrepreneur and meeting so many leaders, I believe nurture is very, very possible if the person is willing to, number one, manage themselves. In other words, be aware of where their gaps are, reflect on what it is that they are doing, and therefore be able to say, I want to change. And with an attitude to change and be a better leader, you will be a better leader. So I believe that, yes, there is that nature part. There are some people who are natural leaders, natural born leaders. And then there is, from the standpoint of nurturing, it's a mindset. Are you prepared to change? Are you prepared to be a better leader? You know, reflecting on what you do, being aware of what you do. You know, and we try to help leaders do that through profiling, you know, through questionnaires that get them to reflect on themselves, by helping them helping them and coaching them so that they can be better leaders. So that really provides the platform. The other aspect of it is, besides the self, is the environment. The environment is very important to shape better leaders, you know. And the environment would be things like measurements within an organization. What gets measured gets done. If you create an organization that doesn't care for your people, you won't have leaders who care and who would actually bring up future leaders, all right, and who want to be better leaders. So it's really important what happens in that environment. Do you have the right values? How are your measurement systems, and do they care about the people? You know, and that's to, you know, in terms of how I see nature versus nurture. Conflict is a natural part of, you know, a work environment. In fact, we should look at it positively, that resolving conflict is an opportunity for us to work things out. If there wasn't conflict, then we wouldn't be able to work things out, and we'd all have people going in opposite directions. So the fact that we have conflict is a positive thing. Now, how do we resolve conflicts in work environments really focuses on that individual and the individuals who are involved in the conflict. Number one, it's really important whether people have this attitude of fight, flight, or to engage. You know, do you fight, which is to compete? Do you walk away and not even deal with it? Or do you come together and do something about it? You know, engagement is the most positive sign within a work environment in terms of resolving conflict. So engagement. If you choose to engage, then what do you do to analyze the situation, to sit down and establish why is this conflict occurring? And we have a little simple acronym called ROI. Why do people have conflicts? Is it because they're looking at a resource and saying, we both want the same thing? All right, so the resource piece of conflict. Or is it an objective conflict? We want something, but we actually are trying to achieve different things with that same thing, okay? And so we are very unhappy because things that are important to us aren't being achieved because we have this conflict. And the last one is identity, which is very emotional, right? The reason why we're having this conflict is because you don't like me, all right? Or we have a personality clash. So ROI is a very simple thing. ROI, is it resource, objective, or identity? So knowing what is it, why we are clashing, why this conflict exists is very important. And then working it out, you know, and a simple way of working it out is really establishing where the differences are, where we actually have similarities, and then coming together, work out a set of solutions and committing to it and actually having an action plan to move forward. So it's not difficult, but the question is, are we engaging? Are we analyzing what the conflict is? And are we sitting together to really work it out? I think that's going to be positive, and it will actually provide a growth, greater growth within the organization. My sentiments on Singapore's entrepreneurial environment, that's a very interesting question. In 2001, I was one of the winners of the Women Entrepreneur of the Year award. And since then, I've been obviously very in tune with what's been happening in the entrepreneurial scene. I've participated in a few dialogues with the government. I feel the government, Singapore government, has been very supportive of small, medium-sized enterprises, and with a lot of the incentive schemes and grants that they provide. So there is the positive piece, and then there's a little bit of a negative, which is the fact that besides supporting small, medium-sized enterprises, there is also the government-linked companies and the, government organizations that are actually also growing up in the same vein that is also competing with the small, medium-sized enterprises. So it's a little bit of here and there, private and semi-linked government organizations that are actually somewhat competing with these enterprises. And in a way that's a little bit uncomfortable setting for entrepreneurship. There are also rules and regulations that continue to, I think, impact entrepreneurship. So there are the pluses and the minuses. But overall, I would say, having grown up from moving from a multinational organization and coming out on my own 11 years ago, I would feel, and having been successful in this as an entrepreneur, I would say that, yes, it's been a fantastic environment for an organization, an entrepreneur, to grow their business. And now that we have expanded beyond Singapore shores to China, Thailand, and Malaysia, we've been very privileged to be supported by IE Singapore and working with them actually to explore possibilities of further expansion into other countries. So yes, I feel that the entrepreneur scene is very healthy, well supported. There are glitches in the scene, all right, that could be worked out, I'm sure. And with Philip Yeo on the scene, I think a lot more can be done in the entrepreneur scene in Singapore.